Welcome to another episode of The Close-Up, a part of the Orlando Magic HQ. I'm your host, Stephen Cameron, and today we got a fun episode. We got my man, Philip Rossman-Reich of Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic joining the show. And we recorded this Friday, March 4th. The Magic just beat the Wizards last night. Paolo, another 33, 18 rebound performance. That was super fun to watch. Paolo's just on a tear. We talk about that a little bit. It's been really, really fun seeing him go on this monster offensive run since All-Star break. Since All-Star break, he's been averaging 29 points per game, leading the East in scoring and leading second in the league in scoring since All-Star break behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's been super fun. Philip and I talk a little bit about Paolo. We talk about the last Final Four games for the Orlando Magic, how important they are. They can kind of control their own destiny a little bit. Then we give a nice play-in preview and a potential playoff preview, talking about a couple of different matchups, the Celtics, the Cavs, who they could face in the first round, assuming they get out of the play-in. It's a really good show. We also talk about Paolo, obviously. I hope you all enjoy it. Make sure you give give Philip a follow. Obviously, you should follow Paolo too, but give Philip a follow. He's doing great work. You can find all his content and his links below in the show description. And then shout out to Brandon Kravitz, our partner over at 96.9 The Game. Magic fans, listen up. Orlando Magic Radio Network pregame and postgame host Brandon Kravitz is live daily on 96.9 The Game within the zone starting at 3:30 p.m. And on Magic game days, he stretches that show all the way to 6:30, the final 30 minutes being completely Magic focused. Want bonus content? Check out his Zone Heads podcast for weekly on-demand episodes. And finally, check out our Patreon program. Link and information in the description. So I'm not going to ramble too much. I just want you guys to get into the podcast and hear the conversation with me and Philip. And go Magic. What's going on, everyone? Like I said in the intro, we got my good friend Philip Rossman-Reich. You all are familiar with him. Philip, what's going on? Thanks for joining us today.
I am doing good. I'm enjoying my little mini All-Star break here, or getting ready to, and then into the go.
Yeah, we're recording this on Friday, April 4th, and it's like we get a nice little 4-day stretch, no games, couple practices, just kind of kick back and watch other teams or enjoy some family time for a few days.
Yeah, Final Four, of course, this weekend. Go Gators. Four. But then we get to wring our hands over what the Hawks do against the Knicks and Jazz. So, by the time the Magic play Atlanta on Tuesday, things could be much different than they feel on this Friday afternoon.
Absolutely. The Magic right now, they're sitting in 7th place. They're 38-40. They have a game on the Hawks, or 2 games on the Hawks. The Hawks are 36-40. The Magic kind of own the 7th seed right now. That just happened the other day with the Magic winning over the Wizards, the Hawks losing to the
Dallas
to the Mavericks.
The Heat lost to the Grizzlies, which helps.
Yeah, and the Heat lost to the Grizzlies, which helped too. Yeah. How are you kind of feeling with the Magic taking sole ownership of this 7th seed right now? Do you think it's going to be possible for them to really hold on to it and, control that spot? I don't think they can move up, right?
No, moving up
not
will
at
be
all.
1 Detroit win, 1 Magic loss, 6 is done. We're at the
a miracle would have to happen where the Magic win all 4 and Detroit or Milwaukee would have to lose.
Detroit, Milwaukee.
Detroit and Milwaukee have the exact same record.
Milwaukee won the season series. Detroit did not.
True. Okay, good call. Tiebreakers.
Yeah, gotta know those tiebreakers. Gotta know those tiebreakers.
But you hear what I'm saying, right? A lot of things have to magically happen for them to get into the 6th seed, whatever team it is, right? How are you feeling with the Magic controlling the 7?
Yeah, I really felt like it was important as it became clear how the schedules were shaking out, and the Magic for the longest time this year have played the most games in the league. They have been leading the league in games played. And obviously everybody ends up with 82.
Hence the 4-game break they have right now.
Exactly. Everybody ends up with 82 eventually. But the Magic were just so far ahead of everybody for most of the season. A lot of their games were front loaded, which is why the early season stuff was so exciting and so interesting, because it was the Magic are banking all these wins when even if they were healthy, we thought they might struggle a little bit. And then ironically, they kind of dropped a bunch of games where we thought that they should be able to pick up some wins and pick themselves back up. But regardless, that we're not here to live in the past. We're here to look at the future. It was really important for the Magic to be ahead of Atlanta and not have to make up ground heading into these final 4 games, because obviously the Magic play the Hawks twice, and the math is super simple on that. If the Magic beat the Hawks twice, if they win those 2 games, forget Boston, forget Indiana. If the Magic beat Atlanta in these last 2 games, they beat Atlanta in the tiebreaker. They beat Miami in the tiebreaker. They win the Southeast Division. It's that simple. The Magic number is 4, but that's 2 Magic wins or 2 Hawks losses. So you beat the Hawks twice, that equals 4. It's at the end of the day, all you want is the ability to control your own destiny. Is to say, like, all we have to do is win. We don't have to worry about what anybody else does. We don't have to ask for favors. The Magic got their favor when Dallas beat Atlanta the other night. They got a favor when Brooklyn beat Atlanta a few weeks back. Everybody has those games. But entering these final games, all you want is to say, all we have to do is win and we get the job done. That's what happened last year. It gave the Magic, they had a little bit of leeway with that. But now it's the case once again in this situation. All the Magic have to do is win those 2 games and it's done. They don't need to beat Indiana. They don't need to beat Boston as long as they win those 2 games. And a week ago, it felt like Orlando had to get one of the Clippers, Pacers, or Celtics games. And those were tall orders. Those are really good teams. And they fought really hard. They had a chance to beat the Clippers and kind of lost it there at the end. We don't know what Boston's going to be like on Wednesday. They could have this 2 seed completely wrapped up and sit their guys. They could come out and say, no, we want to make a statement. We want Orlando to know, not to think that they can touch us in the playoff series. I think there's something to that. Indiana might be locked into the 4 by then. They may not be. We don't know yet. So of the 3 Southeast Division teams, the Magic have the toughest remaining schedule. They don't play any more tanking teams. Atlanta still plays Brooklyn. Miami still plays New Orleans. They still play Washington. The Magic needed to be in control, and they have control, which is all you can ask for.
Yeah, it's nice to be a little bit more in this position, right? Like, okay, they're going to be in the play-in no matter what. They're not fighting for the play-in. All things considered, you look around the league with teams that have had similar injury issues compared to the Magic, and most of them are all low lottery teams. And the Magic, literally, if they would have won 1 or 2 more games earlier in the season, they're fighting to be out of the play-in. They're not even in the play-in, right? Which is frustrating to think back on, like that 5-game homestand, losing to Toronto twice.
The losses to Utah hurt.
The Utah,
Portland. Portland's not a bad team. They've only got 3 fewer wins than Orlando.
But there's a few. You can look back, and you can find plenty of really close games, or
the Chicago losses both really hurt. And I know one of them was extenuating circumstances. Was Paolo literally tore a muscle in his stomach and played through it through the fourth quarter.
Totally. There's just. Yeah,
there's a loss to Philadelphia.
Can we have 1 or 2 more games and we would have just had a little bit more, spot? But whatever.
That's the difference between this year and last year. Was Orlando beat all those teams and pounded them. It was a point.
And you know what? I don't think being in the play-in's bad. We all went into this season thinking, hey, we want the Magic to be a home stand, a home team, playoff team, be a top 4 seed. We've had to make some adjustments based on all the things that have happened for the Magic, losing Paolo and Franz for a significant amount of time, losing Mo Wagner and Jalen Suggs with season-ending injuries. Neither one of them played half the season. So it's there's been a lot of things we've had to adjust our expectations on. And when you look at it kind of through that lens and kind of understanding this team isn't going to make a ton of noise in the playoffs, most likely. So what can we get out of going through this postseason is the play-in is another opportunity to play in a high-pressure game for Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Anthony Black, any player that's going to likely be on this team the next year or two, to go through a hard test to understand and get more experience in these high-pressure games that mean everything, right? So I'm not even upset that the Magic are in the play-in. There's probably going to be a good chance they get out of it, and they go have a postseason series. So when you're looking at the postseason right now, when it comes to the play-in and hopefully they get out and they have a chance in a series, what are you, just kind of knowing what this season has already brought, what are you kind of hoping to get out of these moments?
Yeah, it's obviously experience. Like you mentioned, this team made the playoffs last year. They went through the playoff journey last year, and they got a lot out of it. Like, honestly, I think this year, if the Magic had a season like this where Paolo gets hurt, Franz gets hurt, they could very well be like Charlotte or like New Orleans, where they just kind of collapse. Like, they just don't know what to do. There's not like this like baked in experience. There's not this kind of like institutional knowledge. Not like New Orleans didn't have institutional knowledge, but like there isn't just this resolve to be like, we're going to be fine. Like, we know what we do. We know who we are as a team. And so I think experience is still like really valuable for this Magic team. You know, they are, I think, the sixth youngest roster in the league. Their two star players are 23 years old.
Average age of 25.4, I think.
Yeah. So just going up against the defending champs in a 7-game series, a team that everyone expects to potentially repeat as champions this year, that's incredibly valuable. It's the same thing that we said last year. Not that we don't know what this team's weaknesses are, but you go to a playoff series, you understand very, very clearly, we need this to compete. We don't have this. And look, the Magic are missing a lot. And yes, I agree. There are some things that we should have learned from the Magic's playoff series with the Cavs that should have been carried over to this year that maybe necessarily weren't addressed. But like, Paolo Banchero needs to confirm that playoff Paolo is a thing that we're going to get every year, that he's going to be able to step his game up under that pressure and deliver for his team. Like, I know Franz very unfairly gets criticized, not unfairly, but gets overly criticized for Game 7 and what he did in Game 7 without ever mentioning what he did in Game 6 or Game 4. But Franz can put a lot of those demons to bed by having a good playoff series, by showing up in those big games, by showing up in a play-in game. Honestly, I think the play-in tournament is still a really good proving ground for a young team like the Magic. It was invented for teams like the Magic to get experience, and not only get experience, but get winning experience. Orlando was in a Game 7 last year, and they came out blazing. They took that big lead, and then the momentum very clearly shifted, and Orlando didn't have answers. And to me, that's all being on the road, having the home crowd of Cleveland. And if that game were at the Kia Center and the Magic were up by 17, the game's over, they win. But they didn't know how to respond to that. They didn't know how to respond to that kind of do or die pressure. Well, the play-in tournament, it isn't a Game 7, but it gives you that experience. It gives you this kind of do or die, win in advance type pressure, this closeout pressure that this Magic team has never had to face before. And so I still think, like, I know we're not going to talk off-season stuff today, but to me, the big kind of tension of the season has been the Magic, both coaching and organizationally and like front office wise. I think approach this season is still sort of a rebuilding season. They wanted to kind of see like how far they could push their young players and stretch their abilities before they go out and aggressively address maybe more immediate needs and kind of lock players into who they are as they grow into a championship team. Whereas I think a lot of fans and the players themselves like really focused on this season as we're trying to win. We want to be the 4 seed. We want to accomplish all these things. And the Magic were trying to do, organizationally, the Magic were trying to do a little bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, they went out and signed one of the biggest free agents in the class, and KCP. Like,
exactly, but they didn't they used the rest of their cap room essentially to keep the roster intact, and instead of look, we all know the Magic probably needed an organizer, needed a point guard, and we didn't get to see Jalen Suggs really grow into that role, obviously because of all the injuries. So there's definitely some things that were probably put on the back burner, but. The Magic, the tension of the season is between development and winning as like kind of two things pulling at the team. And the Magic obviously picked development a little bit more perhaps than winning because of how things have played out and the holes that are so obvious. But going into the play-in tournament gives you that development, gives you another chance to develop and grow and gain something and just say like, no, we are ready to win. We can win these kinds of games pretty comfortably or pretty regularly. Now let's take that next step. And regardless, the Magic are going to take that next step and try and like tinker with the team a little bit more substantially to get where they want to go, which is obviously not where they are right now. But, the season hasn't gone the way the Magic wanted it to go, obviously. It's still about, can you make the most of the opportunities in front of you? This isn't what the Magic wanted, but here's an opportunity. Take it, use it, grow from it, and then we'll see what happens in a playoff series because you just never know. This team, I mean, like to your point, if the Magic are healthy, they're fighting in the 4, 5, 6 race. Like, I have no doubt about that. They're only where they are because of the injuries. We can't ignore that they are where they are, though, and say that, it's fine, it's just the injuries. No, there are real issues that need to be corrected, need to be fixed, and that's what a playoff series will expose.
Yeah.
But The Magic are where they are. They have to do the most with it.
We'll get into all that in a future episode for the listeners that really want us to dive into that stuff. It's coming. Philip and I had a conversation before this. We're like, we're not going to talk about the offseason yet. Like maybe a little hint here and there, but we're not talking about it. We're still in playoff mode, or
I'm starting to like write down some ideas on paper. Let's put it that way.
I have thoughts. I've had private conversations, but you and I were talking about it, but we're not talking about it on the pod. That's not today's conversation.
Today is about the playoffs.
Exactly. The playoffs. Speaking of playoffs, let's continue to talk about the play-in, which is kind of like the playoffs, not really, kind of like the regular season, not really. It's kind of this weird in between that is weird, but we're going to talk about it still. All right, Philip. So speaking of the play-in, the scenarios are still getting flushed out a little bit. And ideally, again, the Magic stay in the 7th seed and can have that home court advantage for the play-in scenarios. But is there any particular matchup or the way the 8, 9, and 10 teams, assuming the Magic stay in 7th, that you are really looking forward to seeing, or you think the Magic could really match up well and could go in their favor?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think the Magic match up best with the Hawks of those teams. It'd probably be, I think they match up best with the Hawks because the Hawks don't have a lot of size on their front. They're potentially more offensively potent because of Trae Young. They've got this great perimeter defender in Dyson Daniels. They have a decent rim protector on Nyeke Okongwu, and they have some solid shooting around them. Atlanta's offense hasn't been great all year, and it's been better since the trades, obviously. But, aside from Trae Young going off, which Orlando's typically done a very good job on Trae Young, even in the 2 games since Jalen, even though in the 2 games they played already with Jalen Suggs out of the lineup, the Magic do a really good job kind of putting size on Trae Young, keeping him from the 3-point line, just staying pretty disciplined on him. And at the end of the day, with Jalen Johnson out for the Hawks, they have nobody who can guard Paolo Banchero. Like, it is not a coincidence that he has big games against Atlanta. It is not a coincidence to me that Franz Wagner has big games against Atlanta. And Okongwu is in the paint. You have to be a little wary of him, but I think that the Magic match up really, really well with Atlanta. Really, the only thing that prevents Orlando from really beating the Hawks is their poor shooting, which is everything. Like,
we know.
Orlando struggles to shoot. You cannot bet on them.
Poor shooting.
Yeah, you cannot bet on them to beat anybody because there's always the chance that they shoot 25% from 3 and nothing matters and life is pointless. And everything they do is pointless. But to me, Atlanta just does not have the bodies to handle a player like Paolo, a player like Franz. Chicago, they have Patrick Williams, who's a big guy, can guard. They have Josh Giddey, who can guard and is a difficult matchup himself. Kobe White is a gunslinger and obviously had that big game against Orlando a few weeks ago. Miami's got some size. Now they have Andrew Wiggins. The Magic have not seen the Heat since they made the Jimmy Butler trade, so you kind of have to throw out the 4 games right now. They have Khalil Ware, who's kind of been in and out of the rotation since then, but he's a big body. They can throw Bam Adebayo guards Paolo Banchero. He's obviously a really good defender. They all have their gunslingers and their guys who get hot, and that's kind of what the Magic are missing against all these teams. Like Trae Young can go off for a big game from 3, especially Tyler Hero can go off for a big game. Kobe White can go off for a big game. Paolo Banchero goes off for a big game, but it's a lot of 2-pointers and free throws. It's like kind of star stuff. They don't have the guy that just catches fire the way that these other teams have. And that's kind of what brings the Magic back down to earth a little bit. But just from a everybody out there average kind of matchup, I think the Magic, should feel confident against all 4 teams, to be perfectly honest. I know Miami's playing really well right now, but
none of them have a 1-2 punch like the Magic do.
Yeah, I would favor Orlando in every single one of these matchups. Whether they win or not is, what happens that day. But to me, Atlanta is the one that I think the Magic can most exercise their strengths against and force Atlanta to do something that's uncomfortable for them. And to me, that's what playoff series are. Is how can you make the other team break their tendency or be uncomfortable? And I think Atlanta is the one Orlando can break the most. And again, we're going to find out on Tuesday here just how good that theory is.
Now, getting out of play in mind, let's assume the Magic in the 7th or 8th seed make it to the playoffs. Do you have a particular, same type of question? Would you prefer to face the Cavs or the Celtics? I'm just going to answer this quick and give you my perspective, then I'll let you riff. I think I would prefer the Celtics. Not because I actually think the Magic will get past either one of them. No disrespect to the Orlando Magic, the team we cover, the team I also am a fan of. They're not getting out of the first round in my perspective. So I kind of just want to see something a little bit different. I saw an awesome series last year versus the Cavs, but this is not the same Magic team, just as like that is not the same Cavs team. The Cavs are clearly at another level this year. Celtics, I never want to wish for injuries, but they're also a little banged up. They have some players that they have to monitor a little bit, like Kristaps Porzingis. And also, like, it would just be fun to go have another, like, hopefully close-ish series versus the Celtics, the team the Magic almost got to play last year in the second round. I think they're both going to be tough teams no matter what. They both have really capable defenders. They're both extremely well defensive teams. You know, you got Drew Holiday and Derek White with guard defenders for the Magic that could really cause a lot of issues for the Magic's, like, their guards that are offensively challenged, I will say. You know, and then the Cavaliers, they have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, which will just, that'll cause issues for Paolo and Franz getting to the basket and the paint, stuff like that. So either way, I think it's going to be a hard matchup. Either way, I probably am not voting for the Like, I don't think the chances of the Magic getting out of the first round are very high, but I personally would just enjoy seeing something a little bit different and going for the Celtics. Plus, who knows, they might be a little bit more banged up than the Cavaliers going into the postseason. What about you? Do you have a preference?
My preference is Boston, just because I was in Cleveland last year and I'd like to go to the new city.
Yeah.
And I actually just kind of looked it up, and games 1 and 2 happened over the weekend of the Boston Marathon, which is not something I thought about until just now. And now I have to like say, maybe I need to book my hotel room now.
Yeah.
But no, you know, there is no good matchup for Orlando. Let's make that very, very clear. Orlando is heavy underdogs. You know, they're not in a place to choose. So no bulletin board material here. I think that Orlando tends to match up a little bit better with Boston because, you know, Cleveland has the two bigs, and Evan Mobley, I think, is just such a tough defender. And that kind of goes against the way the Magic are currently built, especially without Jalen Suggs. I think the guards are just really, really tough.
Totally.
One of the Magic's biggest strengths this year has been limiting three-point attempts. I think they lead the league. They give up the fewest three-point attempts per game in the league still. And obviously Boston is a three-point heavy team. And we've seen when Boston, you know, we saw in that game in January, when Boston gets hot and hits a ton of threes, the Magic have no answer. And that's going to be the case with Cleveland as much as it is the case with Boston. I think that the Celtics' general lack of size and the fact that they too rely pretty heavily on their two-star players, that's a little wedge for a defense like Orlando's to kind of squeeze their way through and kind of find a way to make an impact, to be tough, to be a tough team to crack. I mean, look, if I'm Boston or Cleveland, like flipping the question on the other side, if I'm Boston or Cleveland, my rankings of teams I don't want to see in my first round series probably Orlando, Miami, Atlanta, Chicago.
Yeah.
like no offense to those other teams, but like everybody knows when you play the Magic, you're playing a physical defensive style game. Like they're going to drag you into the mud.
They're going to be tired. Whether it's 4 games or 7 games, they're going to be tired.
You're going to get hit a lot.
Yeah.
The Magic are not ashamed to foul either.
And let's be real, none of those other teams are, I mean, the Magic have been a top 3 defensive team the entire season. They're currently ranked number 2, you know, and no one wants to go up against an elite defense in their first round. And that's what's going to happen. And that will be what we all, I mean, it's been the whole story the whole year. If the defense stays elite, the Magic can keep themselves in games. Whether they can score enough points to take advantage of their defense is a different story. But, you know, they can cause troubles to any team because of their defense. Their perimeter defense with, you know, stopping threes being shot, you know, their ability to switch. They're just a really good defensive team. And, you know, no team wants to see that in the first round.
Yeah. And like, look, there has been a lot of thought of who can slow down this Boston offense, who has the personnel to slow down this Boston offense and limit their 3-point shooting and just be able to kind of stick with them. And a lot of people think the Magic's defense and the way they play defense is kind of the way to do it.
Totally.
And obviously,
high volume 3-point taking team, high volume, high stopping 3-point taking defense.
Forcing that team off the 3-point line, being able to switch 1 through 5, which the Magic are testing out right now. Like if you're watching all these games, one of the biggest complaints I've been getting over the last week is why are the Magic switching Wendell Carter onto guards? Why are they switching so much? I'm just like, that's the defense they're playing. And I was watching last night's game against Washington, and they were doing it pretty insistently. And it was just like, they're testing this for the playoffs. They're getting them comfortable doing this so that if they face Boston, this is how they stop their 3-point shooting. They switch 1 through 5. They have Paolo help and hedge on Porzingis. You know, they're testing out what they need to do in the playoffs right now.
Quick sidebar. people, that's also why Wendell hasn't been getting the rebound numbers that he normally is getting, because you can't get the rebound nearly as easy if you're switched on the perimeter onto a guard or a wing player. You're not in the paint to grab it. That's why someone like Paolo had 18 versus the Wizards, because he is spending more time in the paint getting with how they're switching things around. So just a little caveat there. He's been catching some strays recently. And like,
Wendell's been catching strays all year.
I even threw a that was something we were talking about beforehand. I even threw out a post of versus the Clippers game where, you know, Zubac had like 20 rebounds in the whole Magic. The three centers, you know, J.I., Goga, and Wendell had like 12 combined or something like that. It was a really bad, like not bad, but it just Zoo is on a tear. The Magic are experimenting. You guys are getting pulled out of the defense.
I had a very close friend text me, like, what is Wendell Carter doing? He just gave up 20 rebounds to Zubac. And I went back and I literally watched tape and watched all of Zubac's offensive rebounds. And I was like, only like 2 or 3 of them were Wendell. Like everything else was like they're switching. Like Wendell's on the perimeter. Like, what do you want him to do? Like he can't track down. Like he's got to crack down maybe a little bit more, but
totally.
Like that's
Box
not
out
his
a little
job.
bit better too. Yeah.
And Zubac's just a big dude. Like Zubac
has also just been on a tear since All-Star break.
Yeah, he's
we all talk
top 5
about
in the league in
Paulo's
rebounding.
Run.
Like
Paulo's been on an insane run since All-Star break. Zoo has been on an awesome run for himself, you know, in his own classification, like of a player. He's been on an insane. He's basically been a 20 rebound guy like almost every night since All-Star break. He's been awesome.
Yeah.
So, anyways, back on track to the playoffs.
Back on track.
Yeah. Yeah, you and I love sidebars and going down these rabbit holes, and I love that about our conversations. I'm excited about the playoffs. Like, there was plenty of chatter of people like, oh, why are we even going to why do we try and get the playoffs? Let's try and increase the lottery odds. I don't like that. I think it's really important. We know there's going to be some shuffling of the roster this summer, but whoever is on this team in the future, including our 2 most important players, Franz and Paulo, and even guys like Anthony Black that probably are still going to be on this roster, like we want them to gain this experience, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's Boston.
It's like, not even
you want
not even
that.
Just that. It's like not even just that. Like if winning is the goal, if like you're upset that the Magic are just the 7 seed.
Yeah.
Winning still has to matter now. Like
Absolutely.
You don't let like losing kind of creep into the culture. Winning has to matter. Like we're here. This is what we got. This is like people make fun of me because I care about the Southeast Division Championship. Like I want the Earl Lloyd Trophy. Like it's a trophy. Winning matters. Like winning stuff matters. Like I don't know where they put last year's Earl Lloyd Trophy, but I want to know actually. They hang a banner in the practice facility when they win the division. Like it's small. But it matters. And it's like not as big as we want it to be, obviously. Like I'm not saying don't be disappointed that it's not out there, but it's a small thing and it matters. And like winning begets winning. Like you win, you get confidence, you start winning more. And so like we will have plenty of time to dissect and figure out what this team needs to do in the offseason. Like we're already doing that. But you know, this is what you have in front of you. You got to go take it. You got to expect that you're going to take it, and you got to go take it.
There's a lot of value for teams trying to win. We all witnessed a decade of mostly teams not trying to win for this for this organization. There was a couple of years, you know,
they tried and
with Vooch and Evan, but most of the time teams were reshifting and they were tanking towards the last quarter of the season to try and improve their lottery odds because there was no real shot outside of those last couple of years with Vooch and Evan. But you know, this team is young. It's not being led by a 30-year-old center. It's being led by 22, 23-year-old forwards that are just, we want them to soak all this up. We want them to know that this franchise wants them to compete and play and try and win. And the more they settle into those things, the more these guys are going to want to be here, right? No high-end player wants to be around a team that is constantly just chasing better lottery odds.
And not just that, if you care about off-season stuff and like are worried, like are the Magic going to be able to make trades? Nothing repairs trade value more than a good playoff game.
Totally. Absolutely. I mean, you want these guys to show up. So, Philip, we're not going to run too long today, but I do want to talk one more thing. And we just kind of mentioned him there. Kind of like we haven't really talked about him yet. Paulo.
Yeah.
He's on a run right now.
He's good at basketball.
He's very good at basketball. I have this tweet that I've been posting almost every game. I've missed a few for like a month straight. And it's just, I enjoy watching at Paolo Banchero play basketball for the at Orlando Magic. And I'm posting it almost every game now. I probably got 20 of them up right now.
PP does it.
And it's yeah, exactly. It just writes it for me nowadays. Paolo, since All-Star break, 29.4 points per game, 7.9 rebounds per game. How many assists is he averaging? I don't know, probably like 5 or 6. Sorry, I'm looking at something that doesn't include the rebounds, or sorry, the assist. But he is leading the East altogether in points scored during that stretch since All-Star break. I believe he is second in the league in points scored since All-Star break, I think behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is number 1. Give me 2 minutes on Paolo and how special of a player we are witnessing and how disappointing it sucks that he missed 35 games, because if he didn't, this would probably be an all-NBA season for him. It is just, I am just having so much fun, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is how Paolo was playing the first 5 games of the season. Like, so it took a while for him to get back. And like he admitted, like he came back, he didn't have his conditioning, he didn't have his legs. He used the All-Star break to kind of pick up some steam again. And now you kind of see him in rhythm and what he can be. And, you know, it doesn't feel like empty stats. I know like that's the big argument against him, is that like, oh, the Magic are worse when he plays. He kind of stops the ball. I'm like, look, he still needs to pick up his pace, kind of move quicker, make quicker decisions. Like those are all still fair criticisms of his game. But
absolutely,
he is playing at a level the Magic have not seen in a very long time, probably since T-Mac, to be perfectly honest. Like, you know, he's not a Dwight Howard type player. He's not one of those players. Like, there's a reason why like every like stat that he's making, or like his run of 20 plus point scoring games, is like only Shaq and T-Mac have had longer streaks in Magic history. Like he is quickly becoming an all-timer, and it just feels like he gets to choose what he wants to do against the defense. Like you have no choice but to double team him. If you single cover him, you're just hoping you're just hoping that he misses the shot or chooses to take a mid-range jumper. But his mid-range jumper is just in so much rhythm right now. Maybe the last 2-3 games, it's fallen off a little bit. It's just about, okay, we have a guy. How do we get him teammates that he trusts enough and that defenses respect enough so that he can literally just pick what he wants to do at any moment of the game? And it's just about like learning how to impose yourself on the game. And that's like been a big thing, I think, for him this year. All the struggles that he's gone through in his career are normal struggles for a player who is an all NBA player. You struggle with your shot, adjusting the 3-pointer and adjusting the NBA defense. You struggle learning how to read double teams. You struggle understanding, when do I need to go get mine? And when do I need to like make sure everybody's staying involved? Like those are all things the Magic are trying to foster him learning. Honestly, like part of making him the quote unquote point guard is to kind of force him to learn these things and being okay with the mistakes of it all. And there have been a lot of mistakes. Like don't get it wrong. Magic's record is what it is, in part because Paolo's had to learn some things and make some mistakes. But the Magic are making this surge at the end of the season and playing better at the end of the season because Paolo Banchero has resumed the kind of superstar leap that we saw him take at the beginning of the season. And, you know,
absolutely,
he's going to see double and triple teams in the playoffs.
I'm not sure the rest of his
matter. I'm not sure he's going to see it the rest of his career. It's not going to matter.
It's not mattering. And just to give a little bit of context, you mentioned like, you know, some people might call it empty stats or whatever, but I just want to give some context, right? So since that 5-game homestand that the Magic lost, or since that homestand where they lost the last 5 games, they've gone 9-5, 9 wins, 5 losses. You know, that includes that's from the hitting that 5-game road trip March 8th versus the Bucks, which they won, 2 last night versus Washington Wizards. And again, that's when we've been seeing Paolo just dominate. And I mean, he was dominating before that, but the team has been winning during this stretch in this time period too. They've been playing above 500 basketball for, you know, about a month now. And that's really nice. You know, we're seeing other players like KCP find his nice rhythm. You know, he's been shooting, you mentioned this on your podcast, but it's just a known stat at this point. Last 20 games, he's been shooting 45% from 3. That's the last quarter of the season. He's been really like playing well. There needs to be a little bit of a narrative shift on his performance recently. Like he's doing the thing. It's not just that game he hit 7 threes. Granted, he didn't help himself the first 3 quarters of the season. Like he hit
3 or more threes in 5 of his last 10 games.
Yeah.
And against the Wizards, he got fouled on 2 threes and made 1. So he did hit 3 threes in that game too.
Yeah.
Technically.
It's been the team is falling into place, and Paolo has been leading that charge, which has been really cool. And Franz has been awesome too. I mean, we're not going to deep dive on that. Probably talk about him next week on my episode, but like there's just been just appreciate Paolo, people. We were talking about this before the podcast as we were talking about some other topics, but the Magic front office got it right with Paolo. There was people that were debating if they should have picked Chet or even Jabari Smith, and Paolo Banchero was the clear answer.
Sometimes, Steven, you get the number one pick, and it's Paolo Banchero.
Yes, and that's the only number one pick I've wanted in a long time. You couldn't convince me otherwise on those other two guys in that draft. So, all right, Philip, let's wrap it up here. I appreciate you coming on. It's always fun kind of previewing the end of the season. There hasn't been too many seasons where you and I have actually been able to like preview playoffs. We've only done that a couple of times, and we've been talking Orlando Magic basketball for like 6-7 years now. So it's nice to like be able to talk something that means a little bit more than, hey, where are we at with the lottery odds right now?
Yeah, I'm so far behind on my draft prep. Like, people are asking me about guys. I'm just like, I have not. I've looked at like 3 or 4 players pretty closely, and I watched the NCAA tournament. Like, that's my draft prep right now. I am not able to intelligently tell you about any of these guys. And I'm expecting Magic to trade their picks anyway.
My draft prep happens at the end of the season, and it's going to be mildly interesting. I'll have a theory, but I'm not going to go too deep because, again, I don't know what we're going to do with these picks. They have 4 picks in this upcoming draft, but that's a conversation for another day. Philip, remind everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, best place to find me is on my podcast, Locked On Magic. You can subscribe to that wherever you subscribe to podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We got a newsletter as well. You can sign up for the Locked On Magic Daily newsletter. It's a little more bite-sized a bit of my writing. You can find that at lockedondaily.com. And then, of course, my written work is largely at orlandomagicdaily.com.
I appreciate it. Listeners, make sure you check it out. He's also got a Patreon he did not plug.
No, I did not
plug it.
Thank you.
And that'll be in the description. And Philip, thanks for joining. Go Magic. We'll talk to y'all next week. Peace.